Welcome to the Median Society, the space where we meet in the middle to talk truth, challenge convention, and grow forward. I'm your host, Anthony Mitchell, and tonight we are talking about the language that speaks before you ever say a word, your body language. Think about your last conversation. Did you lean in, look away, cross your arms? Were your facial expressions telling a different story than your words? See, these subtle cues can make or break connections, confidence, and clarity. That's why I'm excited, truly excited to have with us someone who has spent 3 decades decoding the human experience. She is a master of presence, a guide to self assurance, and the creator of Magnetic Confidence, Mastering Presence and Power for Men. The one and only Liz Rose. How are you today?
Hello, Anthony. I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we're going to have a great time. I mean, you come with a wealth of knowledge, and you've obviously studied this subject matter for a very long time. So before we get started, it just create a brief synopsis. Tell the audience about yourself. How'd you get into this?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been working in the corporate space for over 3 decades, and I've been coaching leaders and executives throughout that time. And yeah, it's just become really apparent, kind of working in that corporate space, how you show up. So, your body language and your presence, how much that can influence things and influence the way that you move throughout the world and the way that people respond to you. And it became really apparent to me that sometimes often actually it has a much bigger impact on your success and the way that people respond to you than what you actually say. So it's become very fascinating to me over the decades, and I've done a lot of research on the subject, and I just find it very interesting and very fascinating, as a lot of people do, because it's something that we're not necessarily taught, but it's very
Hmm.
important. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So looking forward to getting into this conversation. So let's start with this. What have all these years really taught you about what most people are getting wrong about confidence and communication?
Hmm. That's a great question. And I think what I've learned is that most people think that confidence and communication are about performance. And it's one of the things that I see in my comments quite frequently is that, oh, I want to be authentic. I don't want to perform. But it's not about performance or saying the right thing or sounding polished or being the loudest voice in the room. It's true confidence isn't. It's not about volume or charm. It's about congruence. It's how aligned you are with yourself, how grounded your energy feels, and whether your words match your presence, what you're saying. So people can kind of feel it when you're faking it. You can feel that, but they can also feel when you're real. And communication, as I said, it's not just about what you say, but it's about how you breathe, how you hold your body, and how present you are with the person that's right in front of you. So those invisible signals, they speak louder than our words do.
Why do you think that guys in particular have such a hard time just talking to another human being, a woman? I just find it so. I've always found that to be very strange, and I know it's not easy for everyone. But why do you, in your studies and thinking about this, why do you think it happens so much now?
Wow, there's so many ways that I could answer this question. I was on a coaching call recently with a client, and we talked about his challenges in terms of approaching women or just speaking to women, or even really picking up on cues that women might send to show that they're interested and open in having a conversation. And it can stem right back from childhood. It can be right back from when you were told as a child that you should be seen and not heard, that your voice is not worth listening to, or um, that you just don't necessarily have the belief that anybody could be interested in talking to you. So that self
Mm,
doubt kind of creeps in, and it kind of blocks almost your ability to see those cues that people might be showing you, that might be demonstrating to you that they are interested and open. So it can be so many reasons why, but lack of that true internal confidence is probably primarily the reason why, I think.
interesting, interesting. So,
Yeah.
so they say okay, like body language is often treated like a bonus skill, so something
Yeah.
optional. But from what you teach, it sounds like it's foundational. Um, so why do you think it gets overlooked in general?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Anthony. Body language is definitely, well, it's often treated as an afterthought, but it is actually foundational. And the reason that it gets overlooked is because it's invisible to the person that's doing it, but it's deeply felt by everyone around them. So we're
Hmm.
taught to focus on what we say, the script, the words, but not how we show up in the room before we even speak.
Hmm.
The truth is that your posture, your eye contact, your stillness or your tension, they all signal who you are and how you feel about yourself. And people
Mm.
respond to that far more than the words that you're speaking, even if they don't realize they're picking up on it. There's something subconscious that we can detect. And when your body language is calm, grounded, and congruent, you don't need to perform because your presence just speaks for you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. There's something that you do pretty much on every one of your videos. You walk into the room, and to
Yes.
me, you're commanding one. This is my opinion. I'm not saying somebody said this. I'm saying this. You're commanding respect. You're commanding attention, and then it gets people. And I often look at the comments that some of the men are making. Yeah, you get those comments. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're attractive, and all these things. But sometimes I'm feeling like they're actually missing the message. like like it's cool. You can tell her that, but now she wants you to go tell other people how you feel about
Y-
it. And how do you feel about that? Like when you see the
Yeah,
messages.
absolutely. Look, I think while people they're just trying to be kind and nice generally for the most part, I do sometimes feel that people are missing the message. But people will take what they want from things, and that's okay. It's my job just to provide the information, and people will take what they want or leave what they
Hmm.
want or focus on what they want. So it's not for me to judge. But yeah, look, in terms of the walking into the room. It wasn't actually a conscious choice that I made. I just kind of did it on a couple of videos and then it became a
Hmm.
thing and I just kind of did it on all of my videos. But you're absolutely right because I do talk a lot about walking into the room with presence. So it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And I think probably one of the reasons why I first started doing it is because, as we know, people's attention spans are quite short. And
Yeah.
so, because I'm just standing there and talking on video, I kind of need to make it somewhat interesting for people to stay and stay for past the first 3 seconds so that they
Hmm.
can actually listen to the message that I'm delivering.
Yep.
So, it's a little bit about that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I get it. Makes sense. So let's
Yeah.
continue this talk about these men because what's funny is a lot of our audience is between 25 and 55. Pretty broad, but a lot of different topics that we cover throughout for society. So they've been told, typically men have been told, toughen up, hold it in, never let anyone see fear. But that silence can come across as cold, detached, even intimidating at times. What are the real consequences of that in daily life for these men, especially when they're dealing, and forget them talking to another woman, but just, integrating in the business world or take a fresh student coming out of college that's trying to enter the world of business and get their first job. How does this come across? Can you give them some advice on that?
Yeah, it's a powerful question because that silence, while it's often intended as strength, it can create unintended distance. So, when men are taught to toughen up and suppress their vulnerability, they often lose access to those very traits that actually make them magnetic, which is warmth and presence and real connection. So, the result of that, people don't know where they stand with you. They might
Mm,
be deeply thoughtful, like you might be deeply thoughtful, but if you're if you're guarded or unreadable, others can interpret that as you being disinterested or arrogant or even hostile. So,
mm, mm,
it can be open to misinterpretation. And in relationships, it can lead to emotional disconnect as well. And
mhm,
in leadership, it can create tension or mistrust. And then, internally, it builds pressure because you're constantly monitoring what you shouldn't show instead of just anchoring into who you really are. And I would say that the real strength isn't in shutting down that emotion, but it's in learning how to hold it and express it with clarity and still remain grounded. And that's the shift that changes everything in how others see you and in how you experience yourself.
mhm, mhm. So let's talk. Let's help the women out too, because there are a lot of women going into corporate America and really trying to navigate, the sharks as they call them. So can you
Mm.
give them a little bit of advice? Because sometimes it appears for them that they're being told, hey, you shouldn't be that way. You need to be a bit more feminine. Then they tell them in business, no, you need to be a little more hard. Don't allow men to run over you. So how do you balance these mixed signals?
Yeah, it's tricky. We do receive a lot of mixed messages, but I would say to people that, you need to be true to your authentic self. And we people say that I don't want to appear fake, or I don't want to put on a performance. But the way I encourage people to think about it is that it's not putting on a performance. It's just that there are different scales of ourselves on a spectrum. So sometimes we're more reserved and we command more respect, and then other times calls for us to be more fun and engaging and sociable. So it kind of depends what the situation calls for, and it really depends on what is it that you're trying to convey. I think it's really important to think about that in the different settings. So for example, in a corporate setting, a woman might be working in quite a male dominated area, so she might like to have a think about the clothes that she's wearing and
Hmm.
what that message might be portraying. She might like to think about how she speaks, the tone of her voice, and how she engages in conversation, and the body language that she uses. So,
Hmm.
just have that. You still, I think for a woman, it's really important to still retain that femininity, the warmth, and all of that. But you can still be deeply respected whilst retaining those qualities.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. So let me ask you this, because there's something that you really do talk a lot about, and
Mm.
there's times on your videos you're talking about how the face gives another message from what you might be speaking is different, but the face doesn't lie or something like that. There's some times you talk about that. So can you go into that a little bit to help people understand that, hey, the face can give you away, your body language gives
Yeah,
you away.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think you know, there's so many interactions that fall flat, even when the words are right. And mixed signals, they happen when what we say doesn't align with how we say it, I guess. So
Hmm.
so for example, someone might say, I'm really glad to be here, but their face and their arms show something else. So their arms might be crossed, their shoulders might be tight, their eyes might not be focused on the person in front of them. They might be darting around the room. So it's really important to be congruent. It's not
Hmm.
about being perfect, but it's just about being aligned. So when your posture, your tone, and your facial expressions support the words that you're saying, then you become more believable and more magnetic, and people will trust you far more.
Gotcha. So how do people get out
Yeah.
of these habits though? Like the habits that they've repetitively done for years?
Yeah, it's a great question because most of these habits are so automatic, we don't even realize that we're doing them. So as I always say, the first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. So I often suggest with starting with small, low stakes moments. So, like when you're offering a coffee or you're chatting with a friend, begin to notice those things. Am I standing tall? Are my shoulders tight? Am I making eye contact or fidgeting with my hands? And from there, then you can choose maybe one physical cue to shift. So it might be just relax your shoulders, or just place your hands calmly on the table instead of hiding them. So it's not about focusing on everything and trying to fix everything all at once. Just tiny little changes in the body language can have a good ripple effect on how you feel and how others respond to you. So, but the big reminder is it's not about performing confidence. It's about removing the barriers that are covering up your natural presence. We already have it, but we just need to clear away the static.
Love it. Okay, we're going to
Yeah.
take a short break. We'll be back in about 20 here at the Media and Society with our special guest, Liz Rose.